Hello Mr. Randy Duck and welcome back for another video and another guest replay provided to us today by Tubbywubb, and he is in his SU-130PM, a tier 8 Soviet premium tank destroyer, and my god does he have a fantastic game, and I'm really happy to show you this today. So he's on Westfield, which is a really decent map for a tank like this because you've got fantastic concealment in this tank, and you can, it's the map where you can abuse that. And yeah, I do love Westfield. Now he's probably got the least favourite spawn for me. I do prefer the other side, and he is in a tier 10 matchmaking, so he is bottom tier in his tier 8 tank today. There is only one enemy light tank, which is good. It's always handy when you're on a map like this, you're not bombarded with sort of light tanks full sending out everywhere, and there is one enemy artillery. So initially he pushes up to a fairly standard position for a stealthy tank destroyer, and he's looking to get some cross shots here on this enemy heavy which is pushing across. He does get a lovely shot in, rolling for 529, but then he gets detected and he is immediately targeted by the enemy fun police, and he's just trying to get out away from the Sky Muncher. So thankfully the artillery doesn't hit him and he is okay. Now, although this is a tier 10 matchmaking, the SU-130 is probably not too bad against tier 10s, just because you've got a 520 alpha gun, so you really, it does kick a punch when you hit stuff, and you've also got decent pen. You've got 243 on your AP rounds, and I actually really enjoy the AP rounds on this tank. And then for the harder targets of pen, like those super heavies, E100s, etc., you've got the 320 heat pen, so you're going to be able to pen most things. Now he does eat his first bit of damage when he gets spotted there, and he's just trying to do his best to stay safe. But right now he's just not panicking. He's just trying to get as many shots in as he can. He is going to fall back a little bit because he's kind of getting spotted by that tank behind him. So he's just going to pull back to this lower ridge to stop that happening, whilst he's trying to get as many shots in as he can in these tanks which are spotted. It doesn't really take long in the SU-130. If you get an opportunity to start getting this gun slinging, you can pick up a lot of damage very, very quickly. And the team are currently 2 tanks down, but I think they've lost their friendly light tank, which is not great because they have lost a bit of vision. But I think the enemy light tank is also destroyed, so it kind of sort of balances out. He's getting a few shots here into this enemy IS-4, which has got detected, and already he's on to 3,000 damage and a good start to this game. But he's got lots of targets available to him to shoot in this cross, which is always nice. So he gets a nice shot and a fire, and then that tank gets taken out by his friendly Object 140. And now he's going to try and farm this enemy T8 top tier heavy tank, which gets spotted over in the distance. And he gets a nice shot in, putting himself onto 4,000 damage. The team kind of is sort of been losing from the get-go, but it's still very close. Like, you're a couple of tanks down, and that can change very quickly. Especially on a map like this, where if a tank gets caught out, they can lose a lot of hit points very, very quickly. But at the moment, like I say, he's a tank destroyer, and he's playing like tank destroyers. He's bottom tier as well, and he's just waiting for an opportunity, waiting for some tanks to get spotted. He's in pretty much a good position to shoot most places, and he doesn't really have any reason to move right now. But he's just checking on the map. I guess the real concern is the tanks on the right-hand side above him, if they come down and spot him. But if you look at his position of his friendly tanks, in theory, if they do get spotted up there, they should get shot at by the tanks crossing on the other side. So he does have a good sort of crossfire going. He does get detected by that TD on the right hand side, but it does overpeak, but that tank gets punished for it, and if he keeps pushing like that, he's going to get taken out, and that's because obviously he does have the angles, and their team have got they've got pretty good angling between them. You can see he's got his TD on his left, so they can both cover each other. Now the enemy tank destroyer, which was detected and gets spotted, that gives up a bit of freedom, and the game was brought back to a 9 versus 10, but it quickly changes again to an 8 versus 10. Now we've got this enemy medium in front of him, but this enemy 58 heavy gets spotted. Unfortunately that shot doesn't hit, but he's going to see if he can squeeze in a shot into this dragon, which is a not a dragon, sorry, but it's enemy medium, to put him on a one shot. Unfortunately, it just misses and he gets detected for it, so he's got to try and get back into safety now. And this is where it starts going a little bit south for their team, because they are now 4 tanks down. But he does get a lovely shot into that dragon, putting him onto 5,000 damage. And more importantly, putting that dragon onto a one shot as well. So he's going to see if he can finish him off before he escapes, try and even up this score. But unfortunately, it does miss. And now he's got to be careful, because at 58, you know, he's got 750 alpha. So he can, you know, certainly one shot him. So this is, you know, a little bit awkward. But unfortunately, you know, thankfully, he doesn't hit Tubby there. And also Tubby's able to, unfortunately, Tubby misses his shot. So this game is getting, it's going down to that sort of lower numbers where it starts to get a little bit more freedom in the map. But they are losing this at the moment. There are 3 tanks down right now. Again, it doesn't look like Tubby's panicking. He's just checking. You see the hit points of the tanks. That's always quite important if you just scan around and just so you're familiar with your surroundings and what hit points tanks are, which is always quite important. Always just to keep an eye on the health. 58 is detected again in the open, looks to get a shot in, but then he gets spotted by this enemy dragon, but thankfully he put him onto a one shot earlier, and that allows him to finish him off. But now it's kind of panic stations, because he does get detected. He's in the open, he's just trying to lose his spot, and thankfully he does do that, and that obviously frees up a bit of time. Gets a shot into the 58 heavy there, looking to try and get a second shot in. You know, he's on 6,000 damage now, 1,400 in assistance. And finally, this game has gone back to an even Stevens 5 versus 5. So he's going to go back to that position. He's pretty much been in this position all game, but he's had shots all game. So there really was no reason to try and move when you just have constant shots, and you know you are. He's definitely been influential into in the fight so far. So he's going to try and get a shot into his 58 heavy. He's got time to take the shot. That puts him onto a one shot and then brings him up to just above 6,000 damage, which is nice. And now they actually do have the lead. His friendly team do have the tank advantage right now. And there's a one shot 58 to his left, and there's also a 2-shot object 140, which he's looking to try and get a shot in. Unfortunately, the enemy artillery, the enemy front police does take out his friendly sort of medium with him there on the ridge, which leaves him a little bit isolated. But he's looking to see if he can get a shot in. He does, puts the object 140 onto a one shot, which is important. Now we know out of the 4 tanks remaining on the enemy team, 2 of them are one shots. But he's just trying to move around. I'd probably like to take out that 58 heavy on the left, because that tank has the sort of cross angle. So when this object 140, if it spots him, he's then left in an awkward situation. So it looks like it's going to go and try and finish off this object 140. Object 140 comes around the corner, and thankfully he does finish him off there. But now he is detected, so he's just got to try and lose his spot as quickly as he possibly can. His game's down to a 3 versus 3 now. He's on 7,000 damage in his tier 8 tank destroyer with 2 kills and 2,000 damage as well. Enemy 58 heavy gets detected again, but quickly gets behind the cover of that building. I'd like to think the artillery, his friendly artillery, might be able to try and splash this tank just to get rid of him. I'm not too sure of his angles, but I'd like to think he'd probably have a shot. Well, maybe you can't pen him, but if you can just splash him, he's on like 8 hit points, and just finish off that threat, it'd be nice. But Tubby's just going to wait, because he knows the 2 tanks over that side. One of it is an enemy 58 heavy. The other one was a E100. Now, both tanks, Tubby's going to be able to outspot. So, on a map like Westfield, that comes into a big advantage, because they're not exactly quick tanks. And also, you just know you've got the advantage of outspotting them. He does finish off the 58 heavy finally, and picks up his 3rd kill there, putting him over 7,000 damage, and now in a 3 versus 2. With a enemy E100, which I think is still fairly healthy, and then the enemy artillery. Now the E100 takes out the Iron Rain there. I think that the E100 is on 1,400 hit points. That's a 3 shot if he rolls average on each shot. And now it is a 2 versus 2. So initially he was going to go and try and deal with this E100, but he kind of then decides that, well, there is the enemy artillery. The problem is, if he spots the E100 and then he's just in the open to the enemy artillery with nothing else to shoot at, it's not going to be good because obviously he's in a tank which definitely cannot eat a shot from the artillery. It probably easily one-shot him because it has no armour. So he decides to go after the artillery. Well, at least he initially does, and then I think he's had a change of heart and maybe he's thinking, well, I can catch this E100 out in the open. But I think where he is, he's probably going to struggle to get a shot in without getting detected. So he thinks, well, looking at that, he's probably his friendly artillery is probably already dead at this point, which he does. And now he wants to just try and deal with the enemy artillery first. He swaps to his HE because he can pen the artillery with his HE, and it will boost his damage because the HE on these rounds have got 660 alpha. Now, it's probably a wise move to get rid of this enemy artillery because there's only one tank, so if he gets in the cap, he's got like a 1 minute 40 seconds to react. So he should, in theory, be able to get back. It should give him plenty of time to get back to the cap if he needs to. And if E100 sits in the cap, he's probably in a situation where he's easily farmable. So he's going to try and deal with the enemy artillery first. But now the E100 is in the cap, he does need to get rid of his artillery quickly. Thankfully, he spots him already, puts a lovely shot in, rolling for 700 there. And now he's got 1 minute 30 on the cap, but he really wants to finish off this artillery so he's not just getting shot at when he's trying to deal with the last remaining heavy tank, the E100. He loses this spot, and now he's got to go in for this kill because it is going to get tight for the reset. He should make it. He's got 1 minute 11 seconds. He does deal with the artillery, putting them onto 8,000 damage now and 4 kills. So whatever happens at this point, he's had a fantastic game for a tier 8 tank destroyer. But he's just got to try and get back, and there's 50 seconds on the clock. Like I say, he should make it, as long as E100 is not like tucked behind a load of buildings, which you would try and do. He should make it. He doesn't have any HE left, but with the heat shells he has left, the 5 remaining. Worst case, he can just shoot the tracks of the E100 and just get the reset he needs to give him time to try and pick up the damage. So he's got 30 seconds though, so it is going to be tight, but he should hopefully make it with time to try and get the reset in. You know, he's not far away, and as long as he can just outspot this E100, which he definitely should do, he should have time. But 14 seconds left to go, but he does spot the E100, so he has time now to try and aim this shot and pick up the reset. So he's probably good to go for the track shot here and just get the reset, but he actually decides to go for the pen, and thankfully he does pen because he gets a reset with 2 seconds on the clock. And now he puts this E100 onto a 2-shot. So he's looking to try and finish him off here. Gets a lovely one in through the lower plate. And that now puts the E100 onto a 1-shot to him. He is also a 1-shot to the E100 if he rolls average. It has 750 alpha. And obviously if he shoots HE, so definitely 1-shot here. He's going to try and go for the peak though and finish him off. Unfortunately, gutting way to end the game because that E100 snaps him and finishes him off, which is a real shame. It doesn't take anything away from a phenomenal game he's had. 4 kills, 9,100 damage, 2,000 assistance. Crazy game for a tier 8 tank destroyer. Real shame he couldn't get the win there. I was gutted at the end. That was a lucky shot by that E100. But there you go. Fantastic game. I hope you enjoyed it. And as always, happy tanking.
Hadouken!